Hey guys, this is like the third or fourth time that I've tried to do this video because I am having trouble figuring out exactly how I want to do it. So hopefully this time will stick. But this is the first video for the 2018 YouTube Pagan Challenge. And this year they decided to do something a little bit different and do the ABCs of paganism, or each individual's personal spiritual path. And I decided to go ahead and do this year's challenge just because since I am basically starting out on my path again and figuring out what my practices are, refiguring out what it is that I believe, and basically finding my personal spiritual perspective on everything. Challenging myself to do this ABCs of my own personal path, I think will be a very productive and very efficient and interesting way of discovering what my path actually is now. I already know that it's very, very different from what my path was originally when I started this 6 years ago. So I'm very anxious to see where this takes me. And I'm also very excited to see what everybody else's responses are going to be to this challenge, because I think it is so beautiful that everybody's path is so different. That's why I love this particular path that is paganism, whether you're a pagan witch or simply pagan. If there is a specific path that you follow, like Druidry, anything like that, I think that it's just beautiful seeing the YouTube pagan community and everybody just sharing their experiences and their practices, and just sharing their path and their spirituality. I think it's just beautiful. I really do. And so for me, the letter A, January will be the letters A and B. My letter A stands for altar space. So you can actually kind of sort of see my altar here in the background. I did do little clips of all the different altars that I have. I have my main working altar, and I have several altar boxes. Some of them are for travel, some of them are for very specific purposes. And I will try to get those clips in here and basically talk over them, but I'm not very good at editing videos, so we'll see how this goes. I might start out with those, or I may end with them, I'm not sure. I'm not going to do a full altar tour or altars tour in this video because it would take too long. And the subject matter is really very simple, but it's a very important part of my path I am finding. And I wasn't sure how to really explain the importance of my altar space until just a few days ago. I watched a video by the gorgeous Kelly-Ann Maddox on the beauty and importance of consistency, being consistent in your spiritual practice. And an altar space basically is, or at least this is my definition of it, an altar space is a sacred space that you segregate and flesh out and maintain specifically for your own spiritual health, your own mental health, your own emotional health, and your development. For me, it's a place that I go to regain perspective, and it's a place that I go to vent, and a place that I go to create, and a place that I go to work. There's a lot of stuff on my altar, so there's not a whole lot of working space. I actually have a separate desk, like work table that I use, but because I don't have a whole lot of space where I live. So basically all of my sacred items had to go on this table, excuse me, and then I had to create these altar boxes for other very specific purposes. And like I said, some of them are travel altars, and some of them are just very specific, intentional altar boxes with items that I can get out and set up. And I can set them up on my work table, or I can shift some stuff around and set them up on my main altar. But back to what I was saying about this video by Kelly-Ann. When I first started my path, I did have an altar set up, and I did work with it very regularly. I worked at it regularly. And when I basically decided to take my very long break from my path, I took my altar down and I put everything away. I actually gave away about 90% of the tarot and oracle cards that I had in my collection. At one point I had about 60 decks, and now I'm down to about 12 or 15, not very many. And so I basically did a clearing out of what I felt did not suit me anymore, did not suit the way that I perceived myself, the way that I perceived deity, the divine, the way that I perceived the world around me, the way that I perceived my practice. So I took my altar down and put everything away, and I basically just, I stopped tending to my spiritual needs. And so when Kokopelli came to me several months ago and basically got me restarted on this path with the violin as the catalyst, with my violin as the catalyst, I realized that I needed the consistent practice of having an altar to go to for prayer work, for communicating with this deity, for gratitude work. I've actually started doing shadow work recently, and it was recommended to me to check out Kelly-Ann's YouTube channel, because she does have quite a bit of awesome information and suggestions and experiences that she shares with doing shadow work. So for me, that will also be a place to get some shadow work done, to actually sit down and do some reflecting on myself and the things that are going on in my life, the way that I feel about things, and just basically gaining perspective on it and all of that fun stuff that goes on with shadow work. But, you know, I just knew that I needed this consistent thing in my life. And, you know, I'm still trying to figure out what all it is that I'm using it for, what all it is that my actual spiritual practice entails. And so for the last, you know, couple of months, I've made my altar part of my daily routine, going to it and expressing gratitude, talking, you know, with my deities, journaling, doing card draws for myself, working in my book of songs, you know, that kind of thing, just daily spiritual maintenance for myself. And having that consistent part of my day has actually made my life feel so much easier. In her video, Kelly-Ann actually, you know, explains that having a consistent spiritual practice actually prepares you for the times when things get really tough, or you get blindsided, or you just don't have the energy to do these things that you want to do and tackle the issues that you want to tackle. And for me, that is very, very true. I'm actually going through some deep shit at work right now. I'm actually in the process of filing a grievance against my kitchen manager for bullying and harassment. And, just the interview with our HR directors was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And because I do not like conflict. I don't like feeling like I'm tattling on somebody. I don't like feeling like I can't handle a situation on my own. I hate that feeling of powerlessness. And at the same time, I refuse to let this person take my power, which is why I decided to take the necessary steps and go above her and get some help with the situation. But I don't think, actually I know that I never would have had the courage to do this for myself without having the daily devotional practice of sitting down at my altar and communicating with my deities and communicating with my own higher self, and just basically, taking in what I need at the time. And for that event in particular, it was, I was preparing for it. I was building up my own foundation, my own, self-love for that in particular. And so, it's, for me, it's the most beautiful sacred space. I live in a place that has a lot of very natural reserves. There are several walking trails. We have 2 botanical parks. There's just so much nature in my area that, yes, I go to nature, but during times like right now, we've got about 6 to 7 inches of snow on the ground, and it's negative 20 degrees outside. And so I can't go outside to build up that energy that I might need for whatever is going on in my everyday life. So having this sacred space set aside for myself to do the necessary healing work and the necessary energy building and all of that has become, for me, the most important part of my practice. And I have a feeling it's going to remain the most important part of my practice, because I do journal. I do have a book of songs that I work in. I do divination, all of that fun stuff. I record my dreams when I remember them, but actually having that sit down, that, 15, 20, 30 minute sit down with my own higher self and with my deities has just made a world of difference. And, at first, when I first started noticing the difference, I was kind of angry with myself, just a little bit, that I had given that up, that I had quit doing that I had intentionally hurt myself in this way. And the more that I do this, with every day that passes, I realize more and more that at the time, I didn't need it. I needed to prove to myself that I could handle whatever life throws at me. And I did. So having started, going to my altar on a daily basis now, I realized I didn't need it before. I don't need it now. But it's something very beneficial for my overall health and well-being, my mental health and my emotional health, and for developing my spiritual practice, which is still very new to me, and it's going to be very new to me. I have a feeling that my spiritual practice is going to be changing until the day I die. That I'm going to be developing it until I leave this earthly plane, you know? So for me, the letter A is altar, and it is by far the most important part of my practice at this time. So if you guys want full-on altar tours, I would be more than happy to do those for you. But for right now, just discussing this particular aspect of my spirituality, I'm very pleased with it. And I think it is just so appropriate, the ABCs of your path being this year's YouTube Pagan Challenge. And I'm feeling good about this, guys. So I will be actually looking forward to seeing everybody else's responses for the letter A. And if I don't see you before, I will see you for my next YouTube Pagan Challenge video, which will be the letter B. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful new year thus far, even though we're only a couple days in. But so if I don't see you before, I'll see you in the next one. Namaste and blessed be.